All right, bear with me on the title. Receive City Manager's recommendation to place a measure on the November 2024 ballot. Adopt resolutions 1, requesting the submission of a measure before the electorate of the City of Manteca requesting consolidation of the measure with the general election, setting priorities for submitting arguments regarding the city measure, and directing the city attorney to prepare an impartial analysis. 4, providing for the filing of rebuttal arguments regarding the city measure. 5, the city council to create and make appointments to a subcommittee to draft wording for the final arguments in favor and the rebuttal for the arguments against. And 6, waiving the first reading of substitution by the title and introducing an ordinance of the City of Manteca, State of California, imposing a transactions and use tax to be administered by the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration. Tonight we have City Manager Tony Lundgren here.
All right. Thank you, Cass. Tony, it's all yours.
Thank you, and thank you, Mayor and Council. So I'm going to get my presentation started. So tonight I have information for a proposed revenue measure that I am requesting Council's consideration to place on the November 2024 general election ballot. And so one thing I want to point out is that over the past couple years, Council has been highly involved with the city getting caught up on some of their back audits and some of their finances, and they've been highly involved with our financial state of the city and from the past and then also to the future. So this will be very near and dear to you, this presentation tonight. So we're there, our audits, the light is at the end of the tunnel. We're getting to the finish line. And so with that being said, beyond those steps, we've also taken some other steps to set the city on the right path into the future. And working alongside the mayor and the city council, we have successfully negotiated a new property tax sharing agreement with San Joaquin County for new development that will be occurring with the 60-40 split. Working with the city council, we have also incorporated community facility district formations that not only include park fees, but also include public safety fees, along with fees for road improvements in the future. We've been following all standard financial practices. We're caught up on backlogs of audits. And over the past couple years, we've really focused on economic development and tourism for the future and the benefits that will come back to the city. And over the past couple years, because the state of our revenues, we've really hunkered down and pursued other funding options, and staff have been working really hard on getting any type of funding that we can use in any way to best serve us so we can preserve our general fund revenues. And then just a little bit of information is our current general fund revenues for 21-22, and then these are current sales tax rates, and these are comparable cities. Councilmember Halford actually helped do some of this work, but it also can be pulled off of the state controller's website because we hear a lot of times that the city has a slush fund. I would love to know where that slush fund is, but I have yet to find it, or that we have hidden money. We have no hidden money. This graph shows what comes in general fund dollars for our city versus other cities, and quite frequently we all hear, how come we can't have what Tracy has? How come we can't have what so-and-so has? And these are the reasons why we don't have the funds, and we run a very tight budget, and we have been for quite some time. And I think another thing that stands out here is our per capita general fund revenue is significantly lower than a lot of other cities around us. And then how the 8.25 sales tax is broken down, which some people don't realize this, but out of the 8.25, almost 4 cents goes to the state of California, almost 3 to San Joaquin County, and 1 cent goes into our general fund. And then a half cent is designated to Measure M, which was passed in 2006 by our voters, which is a special tax specifically for public safety and funds. 38 positions. I'm looking for a nod. 38 positions, yep.
20 and 18.
20 police and 18 fire. So you can see how significant that is for us to have that tax measure that was put into place. So people ask us regularly, what would these funds go to? And we have lots of needs. And so this is a draft financial plan of just some basic needs. And tonight, what I am presenting before the mayor and city council is a 3/4 cent increase. What that would bring in would range between 10 to 13 million based off of our sales tax projections right now. And these are some of the things that we can accomplish. We're looking at putting a 20-year term is what I'm recommending, so that we would still have the ability to bond for projects here in the city. So those are some of the top areas that we really could use funding. We'll probably never have funding for if there isn't some other kind of significant increase to our general fund revenues. And then, just want to make sure. And then how a sales tax works. So some people may not know that the state of California has a minimum sales tax rate of 7.25 and a max of 10.25. And the one benefit to leaving it up to our voters to pass a sales tax increase is that the money is secured here in Manteca and cannot be taken from other entities. Until that 10.25 gap is filled, the state or the county can come in and impose taxes. And at that time, they would have control over the funds and we would not have control over the funds. So it's in our interest for us to secure these funds here in Manteca. Another thing too is not only are residents affected by sales tax, but also people coming in, driving on our roads, using our facilities. If they're shopping here, getting gas, then we also benefit from their sales tax when they come into our town. And then this is another thing that I hear we need to operate within our means, and we do, and we will continue to operate within our means, but we are constantly making cuts. We've been doing this for quite some time. I kind of say we put Band-Aids over potholes. We rob Peter to pay Paul to make sure that we're closing our budget gaps. And we have been operating in an area where we've been dipping into our general fund reserves to be able to operate over the past couple of years. And that's not a trend that we want to continue to do into the future. And so if that was the case, we'd have to make other significant cuts. So our facilities and equipment, they're out of date and they're falling apart. And I don't see that changing. We have significant maintenance and infrastructure needs. We talk about this quite regularly, and other implications would have to be made to balance the budget into the future. And then the sales tax critical funding areas would go towards road and infrastructure improvements, public safety, and quality of life, parks, and public facilities. Those are some of our main areas where we need general fund dollars. I want to highlight a little bit about street improvements. So the city right now receives $5 million annually in SB1 and gas tax for road repairs and maintenance. For us to be able to keep up with our current condition, that we need an extra $4 to $7 million annually that we just don't have. So with that being said, our roads are going to continue to deteriorate. And to put that in perspective, our bids that we just recently awarded for improvements on Louise and Lathrop, which we all know we are in great need of, the bids came in at close to $3 million each. So that's more than what we receive in funding. And I think this could also close some of the gaps down the road where if funding changes with the gas tax into the future. And then public safety needs. I know the council is well aware of this. You make difficult decisions during the budget process, and both assistant chief and police chief, if you want to chime in at any point, you're more than welcome to add comments to these sections. But for police, we've been really creative. We were able to put positions into the budget this year, but not because we had an influx of general fund dollars. It was because the police department was proactive and was able to obtain a COPS grant. So staffing levels, Chief, do you want to talk about the next couple items?
Sure. Stephen Schiller, Police Chief. Basically, the rule of 60 standards is 60% of your officers assigned to patrol with 60% of their time being unavailable, and unavailable meaning that you're on a call for service. And so it gives you 40% availability. We are not meeting that threshold due to having to staff investigations, our street crimes unit, community resource officer, organized retail crime, Delta Auto Regional Theft Task Force, our AB 109 detective, and our, I think I said traffic. So pull those numbers down who are assigned to patrol. We do our best to keep that 60% standard there, but it's not. It's closer to 54%. And even with that percentage being at that state, we're also down a detective position that has not been filled, street crimes unit detective that has not been filled, and a motor officer position that has not been filled as of yet due to staffing levels to try to keep the call for service up. Because if you know anything about law enforcement, your backbone of your department is your patrol. Those are the ones out there keeping the public safe. It's the investigations that do the work afterwards, so you need to keep those numbers higher, which we're not meeting those. Also, our police department is very dilapidated. 1975 was the original build, and that's where our now dispatch center and some of our services are held. In 1989, we built a newer portion, which we call the new PD. So 1989 is the new PD where administration and patrols housed. In 2005, to try to alleviate some of this pressure within the department, we had to build a triple wide trailer, basically, is where our detectives are at. And then in 2015, the grand jury went through the county looking at property evidence, and ours was not meeting their, it wasn't up to par to what they believed it was to be, and so we built a new property evidence room to build a new one. We just finished our feasibility study and conceptual design, and it's about $56 million to build a new police department to house them. But along with that also comes vehicles. Sorry, vehicles are in bad shape. We get new ones and then we roll out the old ones. And we say old ones, we're talking old ones with over 100,000 plus miles. And in speaking with Public Works, they'll agree with me that our vehicles, because of our computers, have to stay on 24 hours or when they're running them. So, and with the amount of vehicles we have, they're almost all of them run all day long, and which can double actual mileage that's on those vehicles. And so with that, also some of the things that are needed is a new expansion, which we're trying to receive federal dollars for, expansion of the animal control shelter with them getting vehicles. And so we've kind of gotten by with vehicles. Today we passed, you accepted a grant from CHP, which gave us new vehicles, but those vehicles are outfitted for OTS or traffic enforcement, but they can be used as an overflow vehicle if it has to come to it. We got a new motorcycle as well. But the funding for the police department is very much needed. Like I said, the staffing levels could be greater. We have 80 sworn right now. And if you look at Tracy, who's similar in size, they have about 112, 115 officers. So.
Thank you, Chief. So just that, and I think there's a list of us that could go on with our needs, but I do appreciate that. And I think part of the sales tax recommendation is, I know people don't like taxes, but that's how we exist, and we're able to provide the services and do what we do. the longer we keep putting the Band-Aids on the pothole and kicking the can down the road, the more expensive things are going to cost, and we are going to be even further behind times. So thanks. Next thing I'm going to comment on is fire, and fire's had 9 to 10 positions in the budget for the past couple of years. We've not been able to approve any. They would like to start planning construction for Fire Station 6. Construction costs, one thing, and this is even for a newer police department, construction costs continue to increase about 17% every year, and they can or higher. And then from the last fire engines that we just purchased, which we're constantly, we have some fleet issues we're going to have to be creative to address here. I was meeting with fire personnel today, and but the cost has gone up from the last time that we ordered them, almost $600,000. So it just, and we have no control over that. Plus, it takes multiple years for us to get the equipment. So we have constant challenges and funding gaps that we just will not be able to close. And I'm going to pass it to Assistant Fire Chief Canfield. If he'd like to add anything as well on fire needs.
Thank you, Tony. Just to elaborate on what you had been saying, same thing with Chief Schlur with the police department. We have an aging fleet. Our fire engines are getting old. They're run constantly every day. And with that, we're running more calls. So they're running more often, out on the road more often, and actually traveling farther. Station 6 would help fill a gap on the southwest portion of the city. Currently, our Engine 2 covers there. It's our busiest station in the city. And if we could backfill that with 9 additional firefighters and a second piece apparatus there, we could help alleviate some of that coverage. Currently now, if Engine 2 goes on a call, an engine from another district has to come in and pick up their second and third calls, leaving those districts empty. So there's a little bit of overlap. And Tony's correct. The cost continues to grow up for the building of a station and continues to go up every day for the purchasing of new fire engines. And right now, we're 2 to 4 years out to get a new fire engine. So to try and facilitate that, we've looked at grants, and we're trying to apply for grants to help out, but those also take a long time and come in slowly.
Thank you. So if council so chooses today to put a sales tax increase on the November 2024 ballot and put our faith in the voters' hands, if it's passed, things that we would be able to utilize the funds for, and I did break up a draft plan, but also repair roads, fix roads. We know that is a need, and we have no additional funds to do that. So additional public safety personnel and facilities, potentially be able to have a new public safety headquarters, additional fire stations, maybe someday a new community pool. Vice Mayor, how old is our pool? Come on. I think 70 years, 80 years?
No, it was built in 60.
Councilmember Halford?
Station 1 was built about 65.
It's old enough that I took my swimming lessons there.
We're not
So
even going
if
to tell
that,
you how
if
old
that
that
doesn't
is.
tell the story, I don't know what else does.
We're not even going to tell how old that is.
I don't know what happened to the presentation there. Clean and update parks and downtown areas, address homelessness and blight in our community, small business support. That's something we've been really trying to do over the past couple years with council support. That's something we don't want to stop doing. It's really important. Senior and youth programs, and then crime and fire prevention. And then if it's not passed, I spoke to this a little bit, the ballot measure is, if it's not passed, it could mean, it will mean more potholes, our roads will continue to deteriorate, and potential staff implications, and among other impacts with our service levels. Because at some point, we won't be able to dip into our reserves. It won't be possible. And then also, if a tax measure is passed on the ballot, there would be a 5-member citizen oversight committee that would be created, very similar to Measure M. They would monitor the expenditures. They would recommend a spending plan, An outside audit of all sales tax spending would be conducted annually. A report would be produced and made available to the public. And if passed, the measure wouldn't go into effect until January 1st of 2025. And so citizens will have a voice in how those funds are used. And then the proposed ballot measure language is to provide funding that stays in Manteca to benefit residents. Used for streets and traffic improvements, including potholes, job creation, local business support, homeless services, youth services, enhanced public safety facilities and services, and other quality of life services. Shall the city enact a temporary 3/4 cent increase in sales tax? Our sales tax rate would go from 8.25% to 9% for 20 years, generating approximately $13 million annually, with a mandatory annual audits and review of expenditures through a Citizens Oversight Committee. And so my recommendations for the mayor and council this evening are to approve the resolution placing a measure on the November 5th, 2024 ballot, introduce an ordinance to increase the rate of existing transaction and uses sales tax from 8.25% to 9%, pending the majority vote in favor of the ballot measure, and to appoint a council subcommittee to draft arguments in favor and rebuttal to the arguments against the measure, working with the city attorney's office. And I will open it up to any questions that you might have. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, City Manager. Council, do you want me to go ahead and go to the public first? Let's get that. Okay, we'll go ahead and open up the public meeting. Do you have anybody on Zoom?
As of right now, I have no hands raised on Zoom.
All right, cards.
My first card is Norm.
Good evening, council, staff. Norm Hauser, 2499 Apple Leaf Lane here in Manteca. Let there be no doubt I support the sales tax increase. I'll say at the start and again at the end, I think it's too little. And no, I don't want to pay more taxes, but the reality is I'm a consumer of city services and I don't want fewer services. You get what you pay for. Life hasn't changed in that regard. Tony talked about the fact that things are going to get more expensive if they're deferred. That's an understatement, with all due respect. It's going to be ridiculously hard to play catch up in the future. First, support concerns security, public, first responder, police, fire, EMTs. They not only need, but absolutely deserve your absolute support. When you put them out on the field, it's critical that they have the staffing levels that they need to make sure that they can perform not only their duties, but be safe in their own regard. An officer shouldn't have to call for service, call for backup, call for help, and have the dispatcher say, well, let me see, will Saturday at noon work? They need help now. They don't call because they want company. It's the same with the fire department. If they call for a backup service, it's because they need it. They need to have the resources, and there's just nothing to be said more about that, period. General taxes, although the community's not going to be happy paying them, the reality is you're going to have a generally better community confidence. Confidence, I'm sorry. They're going to be more comfortable in their community. They're going to be more proud of their community. Outsiders looking at this community, not just to move here as residents, but to move here as a business perhaps, are going to look much more favorably on the city. If you get a new business that moves in and they attract, because of the way this city looks on the whole, they attract people from outside of Manteca to come and spend their dollars, that's free money. That's free money in oh so many ways. That's money that could have gone to Tracy, could have gone to Stockton, Lathrop, Modesto. But instead that money comes here, and we've done nothing for it except what we should be doing all along. And that's pay attention to our fiscal needs and responsibilities. Again, I support the increase. I only think it's perhaps too little. I suspect it's what people think may be passable. I wish it was more. Thank you.
Thank you.
My next card is Mike.
Hello, my name is Michael Wise. I'm here today representing the Manteca Police Officers Association as the sitting president. The purpose of my being here today is to publicly announce our association's unanimous endorsement of the proposed tax measure. For too long now, the entire time I've been here, we've been forced to operate under a philosophy of do more with less. That's already been spoken about tonight. This mentality ultimately is compounded with rapid growth in our city, both commercial and residential, has ultimately resulted in the forced unsafe practices that are now creating risk for community and our association members. Examples of these are unsafe manning levels, with which the chief has spoke about, and fire spoken about, unsafe equipment, which we have the same issues. And then ultimately, the most concerning to our association is compensation packages that are no longer attracting the most qualified applicants, which makes our jobs easier and safer. Our association understands that the quickest way to resolve this is the proposed tax measure. For this reason, our association asks that you find it appropriate to proceed with the tax measure in the upcoming election. Thank you.
Thank you.
The last card I have is Garrett.
Good afternoon. My name is Garrett Morrison, and I'm the treasurer of the Manteca Police Officers Association. I've been a member of our community here in Manteca since 1989, when my family arrived from the Bay Area. Over the years, I've watched the city of Manteca grow in both area and population. Our city limits are nearing Ripon to the south and Stockton to the north, as all of you know. Our population is very close to 100,000 people. As we've grown as a city, it's clear that there's a desire to maintain levels of service to our citizens and visitors. However, it's becoming increasingly difficult to do so with aging infrastructure, facilities, equipment, and limited personnel. For many years, our city has operated with a do more with less approach, and we've been able to get things done for the most part. This approach is simply not sustainable and, frankly, not what our citizens deserve. Our citizens deserve a community that's safe and desirable location to raise their families. That's why I'm here today. The Manteca Police Officers Association would like to formally announce our support for a sales tax measure being placed on this year's ballot for our citizens to consider. We understand the concerns citizens may have regarding a sales tax increase and have not taken our decision to endorse this proposal lightly. We wholeheartedly believe that an increase in sales tax revenue is necessary to maintain and improve the level of services that we provide our city. Thank you again for your time and your consideration.
Thank you. That's all the cards. Anyone else in the audience would like to speak? Come on up, sir.
Good afternoon, Mayor, council members. My name is David Mendoza. I live at 1282 Corwin Drive in Manteca, and spending over 40 years in the transportation arena, basically being responsible for roadway maintenance, design, and construction for the state of California and San Joaquin County. I feel that if this measure is not passed or put on the ballot, the city of Manteca is going to be in bad shape when it comes to the roadway system. I'm not sure how many miles we have in this city. It might be 300, and every time a subdivision gets constructed, there's more mileage going into the system. The road's brand new when it goes in, but if you let it go for 20 years without touching it, you're going to have a problem, and that's, I think, what's been happening in this city, and hopefully that can be resolved by having money to do preventive maintenance type activities. And I know that it seems like every year, the way the determination on how the roadway money is spent is the city council gets together and figures out how many complaints you get, and that's where all the money goes. But you still got a huge amount of roads that need attention. And if you don't give it to it, it's going to be a problem. Every city, I would say, in this state has the same problem. And hopefully we, the city of Manteca, can solve part of it by passing this tax measure. You know, let me give you a little perspective on the prices of increase of what's happened. In 1990, when I worked at Caltrans, I put out a contract, and the low bidder came in for the asphalt at $18 a ton. Right now, it's probably running $90 a ton. Back in 1990, the guy holding up the flag that says stop or go or whatever it says, he was maybe making 18. Today, they're probably making around 40. So it's just going to get more expensive. It's going to get harder to do. And the finances that we need, hopefully we can make this happen. You know, I don't care if you're from Mars, Manteca, Republican, Democrat. Nobody can say that it's not needed. And, you know, this talk about getting leaner and meaner, those days are over here in Manteca. That money needs to come from somewhere. And I, for one, a resident here, would vote to increase the sales tax to have that happen. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the back?
Hi there, good afternoon. My name is Lauren Corey, and I am a commissioner and co-chair for the Manteca Recreation and Community Services Department. And we are in full support of this current tax measure that's up, hopefully that will go on the ballot in November. We are in huge dire need of a new pool. We are in huge dire need of a new community park. Our team does absolutely amazing with the current resources that they have. However, we're at the mercy of the school district. And a lot of programs, if we continue to grow as a community without this tax measure, could be cut drastically, and we would hate to turn anybody else away from the city. I myself come from like a very large aquatics background, and we are having to send everybody else everywhere else but here. Traveling as far as St. Mary's High School in Stockton, Ripon, Modesto, Sonora. Our pool, I like made a joke back there, but like our pool, I was like, it's probably older than most of everybody here. Or if not, like Charlie said, yeah, we were like, we thought it was like, they're like, what year was it? We're like, well, I don't know, before Christ or something like that. But it is, we are having to outsource, and we're growing our programs as a community, which is phenomenal to see from the district standpoint. But we don't want to continue to grow these facilities in the school districts like water polo and swimming and other sports, basketball, volleyball. And then we're having to say, this is so great, but so sorry, city, we have to cut back your swim lessons. And that's not fair to do to the city. Swim lessons are extremely important. As we know, we just went through that 2-week heat wave, and we were struggling for open pools, right? And swim lessons and being able to get kids there. If we can't provide swim lessons to the community, then we are in another world of trouble and hurt with taking safety and everything. So I appreciate you guys' time. I hope and you guys have the full support in the tax measure, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? You're next.
Hi, Judy Blumhorst. I support the tax measure. I support very strict oversight of it. We need to fund ongoing police and fire protection, public safety. We've been depending on cutting back, and we're already bare to the bone. So I would support that. Without that, we cannot afford to hire more people. We can get grants to buy equipment, but you can't commit to employment without an ongoing source of funds. As far as it goes for infrastructure, I think Dave put it very well. Our roads are in disrepair because we haven't kept up. We've been digging a hole, and unless we get new funds in, it's going to continue to get deeper. Traffic and easing traffic congestion is also a huge priority. There are older parts of town which are not in line for developer dollars. and they need to be upgraded because the city has grown around those neighborhoods. I've been over the budget. I carry around a book with me because I'm memorizing this year's budget, and the sources do not meet the needs. We cannot be the kind of town that we want to be. We can't have the services we want to be. It can't be the town that many people moved into expecting to find unless we step up and we provide more amenities. Public safety comes first, but amenities are also part of the quality of life, just as important as public safety. So I would thank you all for the time and the effort that you've put into this, and thank you very much.
Thank you. You're up.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. My name is Corey Coleman. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on this important item tonight. As a resident of Southwest Manteca, an area of town that is keenly aware of the public safety limitations that currently exist in this area, this is of particular importance to me in the community over in southwest of the Airport Way overpass. Nobody likes to pay more taxes, at least I don't know anybody that does. However, this may be a necessary evil to fulfill the demands that a full-service city needs to support its community. When we look at how essential the revenue is generated from Measure M are to the community, it's not hyperbole to say that our community would be in crisis without them, without the additional police and firefighters that are funded by this tax that protect our city every single day. For those that are concerned that the funding in this proposed measure is unrestricted, well, it is, I guess, by definition, since it's a general fund proposal. However, I think we should look at this as being restricted to our city. It's not going to be used towards the county, and it's not going to go to the state, where most of our sales tax dollars go today. And I believe if the city can commit to the citizens of this community that a specific percentage of the funds will go towards our most critical needs, and I'm speaking specifically of police officers, and enough funding to build and staff a new station in Southwest Manteca, with the appropriate oversight with non-city employees, this should give the voting citizens the confidence that it needs to ensure that their tax dollars are going to be spent properly with this new measure in the best interest of the community. Common sense citizens of this community recognize that the issues that previously existed with respect to financial responsibility in the city have long since passed. I think it's time the voters consider this objectively with an eye towards the future and what's possible for less than a penny on the dollar. And I hope and I urge the citizens of this community to pay attention to the public comments that were made tonight, because I think they're well warranted. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to come up, speak on this item?
How you doing, Council? Hey, Sergeant Steve Bierman with the Police Department. I'm not a polished speaker like some of the folks here tonight, but I'll try to do my best.
3 minutes.
I just wanted to give a real-world understanding of a lot of people here have offices. When the officers walk out in the front lot, those cars are their offices. And most mornings they walk out, try to start a car, and it won't start. Then they have to go to another office and try to get that started. And then if that doesn't start, there's some officers that have gone to 3 different offices before they get a car that starts. And the 2 that haven't been started have to go to the yard. So we're down cars for when we have the overlap with swing shift and other officers come in. Another thing is our building. I think Charlie was around before the building, but my office has no airflow, has no windows. It's just a square in the middle. I think it was an old storage room that they turned into an office. So we're dealing with conditions where I don't see anybody because my partner, Puck investigator, is in the office. So I keep the door closed, but there's no windows, there's no airflow in the building's pretty much dilapidated. If you go outside and walk through the city, you look at the wood beams that go across. A lot of them are broken and not hanging on too well. So we could use officers as well as the equipment, because if we don't have the equipment to get the officers to the calls, the officers are going to do no good. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Anyone else on Zoom? Cass, give you another shot there.
No, I have no one.
Okay. With that, I'll go ahead and close the public. I'll bring it back. I will say on the record, though, we also did receive 2 other comments from anonymous members who were against the tax measure, and then also from the fire local unions endorsing it. So I believe that was also part of the record. I just want to make a few comments. I feel like I've been part of this from the beginning, and I've seen it from going down, up, down. Folks, it's been said here tonight, nobody likes taxes, nobody likes to pay more. We've had our challenges, we've gone through, it's been a long road to get to this point. But, there was times where the financial stability was not looking so great. We had some issues with our staff. But that's the thing is that, I get blasted all the time on social media about all the different things that are happening in this community and that we could be fixing. And we, a lot of times, keep on bringing up some of the old things that have been going on, but we are moving forward. This council has made a commitment. We have cleaned up everything. We have been transparent and put it out there. We got nothing to hide. Everything's here. You can see the money. You can see where it's coming from. You can also see when you're comparing it to all the other cities. I get told, well, tighten your belt, do more with less. Well, that's what we've been doing. How much more do you want me to tighten? Because there's nothing more to tighten. If you tighten any more, you're going to lose services. For me, number 1 priority is roads. I get it all day long. Roads, traffic, congestion. If this tax measure passes, roads. It needs to go to roads. Public safety is also important to me. But right now, we need to get our roads fixed, folks, in this town. We got to get the traffic moving. We got to have a full commitment to do that throughout this town. And not just, like I know someone mentioned it tonight, not just the area that everybody complains about or shows up here to complain about a neighborhood. Because honestly, I get complaints about every neighborhood in this community, and it's needed. So financially, we are sound. Our finance department has worked really hard to get us to this point. We are open. I know there's a lot of folks out there that say, oh, no, this is, again, another slush fund. It's going to go no matter where. We don't know what you're going to do with it. There is a plan. And do you think we have this magical money somewhere? Please come and show us. I will be happy to use it for whatever you guys want for it to be used for. At the same time, we're open to explain that. I think a lot of times people don't understand how government works. Money just doesn't appear. Money comes from fees or taxes. And that money is spent back and invested back into the community in providing services. I think I've listened to the public. It's never a good time. I've heard that too. Right now, it's not a good time, and I understand that. It's never going to be a good time that we raise taxes. And looking into that, I've been working with the city manager. Originally we were looking at a 1%. We kind of went back and forth, and now we're brought down to 3/4, which puts us at 9%, which is kind of right in line with some of our neighboring cities. There's been questions about, you raised the sales tax and people are going to leave our town and go shop in other cities. Well, if you look at some of the other cities, they're higher than us. So I don't know why you're going to go shop at other cities and spend extra gas to go to those other cities to pay more. The other thing I think that's really key about this is that accountability. A lot of people have talked about, this is going to go on forever. The way I see it in my mind, the reason we came up with the 20-year term It's not just because we're looking at bonding for projects that we need funding for, but also if you remember, we did a deal with Great Wolf, and that was a 20-year deal. So my goal is that hopefully, when this is going through, and in 20 years we have a sunset on this tax measure for 20 years, because by that time you'll have money coming back where we're getting the full amount that Great Wolf generates. I need some water. So that's where that 20-year came from for me. That's something I had even said when I was elected, that if we were looked at something, it's not a forever thing. I would want some kind of sunset. I would want to make sure that the money is allocated to certain things, which it is. So I think we have listened to the public, and then we have made some definite good decisions on how to move forward. Is it going to make everybody happy? No. But at the same time, I think we're trying to do what's right. We have worked really hard, this council, the last few years, and staff, to find grants. A lot of the roads that are being fixed right now, including Louise and Lathrop Road, is not local Manteca funding. It's money that we were able to get from outside. The cops that we're hiring now, it's through a COPS grant. That's the first time we got a COP grants over a decade. But those grants are not forever, and eventually when the grant goes away, we have to fund those positions because nobody likes to hire an officer and then lay him off after the grant expires. So we still have to fund those positions, so I need residual income, not just one-time funds. So I've said a lot already, and I'll kind of go back to the council now, but I definitely am in support of this, and I think it's something we have to do if we want to make the city continue at its current pace, but also improve. If you are happy the way it is, and you don't have any complaints about the city, then let it be. But I'm pretty sure from my social media feed that people are not happy with the way it is. So with that, I'll go with Councilmember Halford.
Well, nobody's in favor of new taxes. I mean, it's pretty universal. There's a lot of reasons that our general fund revenue is not as high as other cities. It ranges from, we are the affordable housing for the Bay Area. So our houses are cheaper than the ones in Tracy, cheaper than the ones in Livermore, Pleasanton. Consequently, the property tax is less. So the house I live in now is, I don't know, it's worth somewhere in the neighborhood of $650,000. I paid $400-something thousand for it 5 or 6 years ago. I'm paying less in property tax than somebody buying a new house. Property tax only goes up maximum 2% a year, which in some years does not keep up with inflation. If you live in your house for 20 or 30 years, I was speaking to somebody this morning, and he was kind of supportive of the sales tax as long as it fixed the roads in his neighborhood. The houses in his neighborhood that I think he's an original owner, they're paying around $1,500 a year. New house, and we only get 20% of that. The new houses that are being built are we got real estate people here, $650 to $750 for the new houses. So they're paying $6,500 to $7,500 a year. And depending on the subdivision, we may get 40% of that, or we may get 20% of that. Most of them are 20%. The new ones that are starting will get 40% on. Historically, the 20% split in San Joaquin County was lower than other counties for whatever reason. I mean, it's a negotiation. Every 10 years, you negotiate the master tax agreement with the county, and they apparently had more horsepower than we did when those were negotiated over the last 40 or 50 years. Cities have to operate within their means. I mean, we get that all the time. We legally cannot spend more than we make. I mean, We can spend our reserve funds, but once the reserve funds are gone, we cannot legally spend more than that. Because if we start bouncing checks, it's not a good thing. Sales tax, you know, the way, and we spoke about this at other meetings, the way that sales tax is distributed on internet sales in California is crazy. We are one of 4 states where it's distributed based on the point of origin as opposed to the point of destination. And to complicate it even more, it depends on who owns the warehouse that it's fulfilled out of. If it's a third-party owned warehouse, it comes to the county and gets distributed among the cities. If it's owned by the selling company, it goes to the city or government entity that it's located in, which is why Tracy has a boon on sales tax revenue. Ownership of the warehouse changed. Probably was still always owned by Amazon. It was just a company owned by Amazon. So they're getting all of that sales tax. That's why they get an extra $40 million in 2021. That's huge dollars. That also means we're not getting it. And the only way to make up that revenue is to increase our sales tax. We can't spend what we don't have. It's not a general fund revenue. Another reason we're having difficulty with road maintenance is gas tax. State has not figured out yet, and they're not likely to in the near future, how to transition from gas tax to electricity tax, for lack of a better term. As there's more and more electric vehicles come on the road, they pay a little bit extra on their registration, but they pay nothing towards road maintenance. Gas tax is for road maintenance. They pay nothing. And that's why our gas tax, I see Shay over here nodding, that's why our gas tax is flat at best and not increasing, and it's going to decrease. Because as there's more and more electric vehicles go on the road, there's going to be less gas tax. It's a dollar amount per gallon, not a percent of price. If it was a percent of price, we might be in a little bit of a better shape, but it's X cents per gallon. And obviously, the more economical your car is, the less you pay in gas tax. And if you look at the chart in the presentation and our per capita general fund revenue, we are crazy low compared to other cities. And that general fund revenue does not include any special sales tax that those cities may have adopted. So I am supportive of the sales tax. At the very least, it's an opportunity for the citizens to agree to pay for what they say they want. And everybody wants better roads. Priorities for me are road maintenance, fire station in Southwest Manteca, staffing the truck company, increased law enforcement. Obviously the money that this raises, we could probably spend $25 or $30 million a year on the needs that are identified. Chief Schler would probably like another, 20 cops. You'd take those. But every 8 or 9 cops is $2 million. To staff the fire engine is $2 million. To staff the truck company, if we had an extra engine in the truck company today, or extra engine, it's obviously going to take 6 months to a year to hire people. It's $2 million. And that's ongoing expense. I understand the sunset, but when we hire people on it, and whether or not the revenue from Great Wolf would be at a point to offset that, but there would also be an opportunity in 20 years to renew this if that was the case. Very much like the COG Measure K was renewed, 7, 8 years ago? It was had a 20-year sunset, and it was renewed recently. Because you look at all the projects, some of the repairs that were being done on Louise and Lathrop, Measure K money. McKinley Overpass interchange has had some mostly Measure K money. We have the groundbreaking tomorrow for 99 in Austin, 120 interchange. That's a lot of Measure K money. So there's a benefit to that. This tax potentially could help pay for new police station, new public safety building. When I started in November of 1976, we moved into the first building in late 1975 when I was a reserve. And when I started in 76, it was a few years old. It was a massive increase from what it was before over on Sycamore. But Manteca was about, I don't know, 25,000 then. I think there's about 25 cops. And, you know, obviously much larger now. Fire station in Southwest Manteca is a big deal. Response times to the southwest part of that are not great. I mean, just the distance you have to travel at this point. So I'm supportive. You know, the price of fire equipment, fire engines is just crazy. I mean, the price for it increases well beyond the rate of inflation for everything else for whatever reason. And the delivery times have just gotten worse and worse. So I'm supportive of it. Nobody wants it to pay any more tax, but it really is something that we need, and the only way that we're going to be able to pay for what everybody seems to want, or what most people seem to want. Manteca has done more with less for years. I mean, when I was at the PD, I heard that in 1977. And when I was chief for the 12 years, I mean, we had some good years fiscally. I mean, because things were going pretty well before the recession. And we passed the half-cent set Measure M, and so things were going relatively well, but inflation has eaten a lot of that up. And the price increases that have been much higher than inflation. So I'm supportive, and I'm done for the time being, I guess.
All right. Thank you, Charlie. Councilmember Nuno.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Halford. I know a lot of it was historical, and actually, I'll piggyback on that. Just not to mention a lot of some of the big highlights, but the one slide that I know Councilman Halford helped out a lot was the general fund revenue and per capita. That really puts in perspective the dollar amounts we're at. Growing up in the Central Valley, coming from a small community, Manteca, to me, I've always grown up in the Central Valley, but Manteca seemed to me to have everything a city needed for a resident to be able to enjoy, from commercial to some entertainment, leisure. But still, now we have more people coming in, not just from the Valley, but also from outside, specifically the Bay Area, where a lot of amenities are very common, expected. So when they come to Manteca, they come for family atmosphere. They're also expecting some great amenities, and after some time, and I live in the north side of Manteca, was elected a general, specifically represent the southeast, but which is the biggest, fastest growing part of the city, the south side of Manteca. And there is a fire station number 5 in the southeast. But on the west, there isn't. And it does bother me a lot because I think there was one gentleman who said, lives specifically there, that it does matter, and we have different fire stations reporting there. We also have other other trucks, engines going to other cities to help support, because that happens a lot. But it does bother me a lot that we don't have a lot of the amenities and also a lot of the services that our residents need. And that, to that point, comes down to money. And money is how a city does survive. Whether it's going to be, it's not the paycheck. It's going to be revenue funds that we make, sales tax, and doing the math. That's the biggest factor for us. So this tax measure idea came a couple years ago, and at that time, I don't think there was very much support by council at that time. Maybe 1 or 2 people, and it failed. What I'm seeing this time is about kicking the can down the road. Is with this council and staff, we don't do that. we like to take it head on, and for better or for worse, our mentality, and I will speak as a general, I'll say that our mentality I've seen as a consensus is to move Manteca forward. Individually, my time serving has always been about how can I be, during my time, serve the community, do good, and when I'm done, feel good about what we did. I want to leave Manteca in a better place financially, stable, with staff seen present, talking about their needs. You know, it's very, well, I hear it, not just from the staff level, but from the community level. Roads is one of the main priorities I have to help our community, and also from the law enforcement and public safety. Those are probably the most visible, and people feel those. Public Works, I know, getting your trash picked up, that's a very visible thing. A lot people care about as well. So with this money that will be coming, and I've heard some community members say, well, it's not specific enough. Where's the money going to go? And I've given my perspective saying that it's going to be for our citizens. It's going to be for our community to make our community better or what we have. Mistrust is there of government, and that is not just at the local level, but state, national. But I want to just assure the community that I'm not going to say trust me, because you shouldn't trust me. You should believe in what we're doing and see the results that we're doing, whether there's going to be a special committee appointed to oversee this by the citizens, just like Measure M we've had, to the actions of, and also the results from this money. That's going to be the most important thing. So believe in that. And if there's not, then there'll be some measures there in order to remedy that. The perpetuity or 20-year, when people look at their Mello-Roos, a lot of those taxes are in perpetuity. It never ends. And yeah, a house today is going to cost a lot more for taxes than it was 20 years ago, even last year. So having a sunset on it will be good. Hopefully that will time properly with Great Wolf and other monies to help alleviate that. And in 20 years, whether some of us are still here serving the community in some capacity or new folks are coming into our community, let us have a better community for them and us than what we've had so far. So with that, I'll pass it on, and just wanted to say that I am also supportive of this. I do see our roads and our public safety as being the priorities for me. I do see South Manteca as a part of our city that highly will benefit from this, and I want to be able to set that stage for that to happen. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Nuño. Councilmember Morowit.
It's very simple. You want to hire cops and firefighters, and you want to fix the roads. This is the only way that's going to have additional support to the city. We will continue on if this doesn't pass, but we will not grow. The city will grow, but our tax base will not. And so what will happen is we won't lower people's wages. We won't cut their hours. We will just cut staff. It's real simple. This is not a small-time business. We don't have a mechanism to do that. The only way we grow is we hire more officers, more firefighters, fix roads, and then the rest comes with it. Then we can talk about buildings and we can talk about more vehicles and things, but we need to make sure we can get the staffing levels up like the people want. I mean, we cannot spend more money than we have. And last year's budget, or this year's budget we just finished, was very simple. Our finance manager told us, this is all we got. So that means next year, it's all we got. So I don't know quite how we'll be able to fulfill the needs that we promised for next year if we don't get more funds and revenues from the city taxes. We cannot raise funds with donations. Like I said, we're not going to be able to cut people's salaries. We don't do that. That's not the way it works. It means we lay off people and we don't grow. So as much as a businessman, and I've been in business and I hate paying taxes, this is the fairest way to do it. If not, like a lot of cities do, they land it on top of the property owners. They try other types of measures and assessments. This tax is for everyone. A good portion of the tax will be from folks that travel through the city, that buy gas along the freeway, that jump off on Arch Road, Lathrop Road, and come to different parts of Main Street and future gas stations and future fast food places we're going to have off 120. It won't even be folks from Manteca that'll pay a lot of this. It will be folks just traveling through. It'll help with what we have going on at the family entertainment zone. When we bring more restaurants in, there'll be people coming from other cities and other entertainment. So it's very simple. It's the fairest way to put a tax out there, and it also grows because as things get more expensive, and we all know what inflation's about, the sales tax will go up. And that will be sort of the rise, the inflation builder we always talk about. Because as things get more expensive, sales tax goes up. If gas declines, well, that's probably going to happen, and hopefully, as Councilmember Halford says, there'll be a mechanism with battery vehicles. But in the meantime, we have no other way to raise funds. We're not just going to start taxing people in Manteca just for no reason. We can only get so much out of the business taxes. This is a way, like I say, to bring more revenue to the city, to gain the proper needs that people want. They want the roads fixed. They want more public safety. Yes, they want other amenities, but those are the priorities. And until we get more money in, I don't know how else we can do it. I just can't invent more money. And if I could, I'd be there. If I had my business, if I need to make more money, I stay longer at the store. I stand behind the counter for more hours. I can't tell police officers, firefighters, and city staff, hey, put a couple extra hours in for us and just stay here. It doesn't work like that. We need to make sure we have the revenue coming in. That's the only way cities and governments sustain, is through taxes, unfortunately. And like I say, this to me is the fairest way to put this tax across the community in a sales tax form. 0.75% is not quite what we wanted. We really wanted about 1%, but we felt after doing much research, talking to staff, it's the safest bet to ask for 0.75%. So, like I said, I believe we put it in the people's hands. We're not going to dictate what happens. It's going to come to your ballot in November. You decide what you want. And if you're satisfied, like the mayor said, then don't vote for it. But if you really want more services, you want things to improve, you want the city to grow as it is, then you vote for it. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor.
So first I wanted to kind of clarify what Councilmember Halford was saying about the truck. The staffing for the new truck is to get it to Station 2 along with an engine there. It's not about just staffing the truck. It's about getting it to Station 2 and staffing another engine for Station 1. When I look at this, we're not looking at just Station 6. We're not looking at a few police officers. We're looking at 20 years down the road. What is this going to do? You're looking at a new police station. You're looking at more officers. You're looking at Station 6, planning for 7, planning for 8, and the personnel that fill that. The last tax measure that the city brought forward, there was no plan. The leadership just wanted to pass a tax measure without any kind of plan, and I wouldn't endorse that. This one has a plan, and it talks about public safety, talks about infrastructure, and it talks about quality of life, all three which are very important to all Mantecans. And I include myself in that. And that's what I look at. What is this tax measure going to do for the city of Manteca? Not only will it increase public safety, increase roads, but it'll also help with quality of life. And to go back with what some of us have said, people ask, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? We want this, we want that. Well, how are we going to get this? How are we going to do this? This is it. We're giving it to the citizens to decide if they want to do it. If it doesn't pass, I don't want to hear anybody complaining about, well, when are you going to fix the roads? The opportunity is in your hands. All we're doing is saying, you decide. What do you want? What do you want, city? That's what we're doing. That's all I have.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. And the other thing I always hear about is also that there's no oversight. And that's the other key factor. We have members here for our Measure M Oversight Committee, and this would be very similar. Again, you have a public oversight committee that's going to make sure that this money goes to where everybody wanted it to go to. And that's looked at annually. I've also had questions about, this council's good and everything's perfect and You guys are, gonna use it where it needs to be used. But what about in the future? What if, future councils don't do it that way? Well, the power is back to the people, guys. Again, there's this beautiful thing that happens in our country, and it's called an election. And you get to decide. You don't like what the council's doing with that money? Guess what? You vote them out. And you get someone in there that's going to do what you want with your money. So I feel like this is fair. I feel this is our step forward. I think you're seeing for the first time of a united council, united staff, working together to make us a better city. And again, the choice is in the public, in your guys' hand, to see what kind of city, what kind of Manteca do you want for the future. So with that, I will go ahead and take a motion.
Motion to move forward.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion to adopt all of the resolutions. Do you need me to read them all?
For clarification, are you going to be appointing yourselves or a member of the public for the rebuttals? That would need to be done publicly.
Okay. What the council would like to do. Does staff have a recommendation?
So the recommendation is that you can appoint yourself or a citizen to help with the arguments.
Okay, and is it how many individuals?
I'm going to let the city clerk answer this because it was my understanding that they'd work with the city attorney's office to appoint. It could be either them or a citizen. If you want to clarify on what's required tonight, the city attorney or the city clerk, that would be appreciated.
And how many individuals do you need?
Yes.
No more than 5.
Do we have to appoint tonight, or is the
I'm gonna
ordinance
let
just
the-
authorizing the appointment, directing the
You
appointment?
can authorize the appointment this evening and come back at a later time afterwards to appoint. But we do have deadlines to keep up in mind, though. So, Madam Clerk, can you remind us when the deadlines are?
July 29th.
Yeah. So, I think it would be good to appoint someone today so that we don't have to come back later. Because I know that yeah.
So I think taking that into consideration, then I think it might be better to appoint a 2-by from the council here. And then I don't know if we have enough time to actually appoint some citizens with that. Because you said no more than 5, right?
Yeah. The 2-by can seek input from, the community. And
2-by can seek input.
Yeah, exactly. And work in that way. I think that might be the simplest. City Manager, did you?
Just a clarification, the ordinance is not appointing these folks, so we need to.
Yeah, we need to
vote on the motion.
Yes, and then do
appoint.
Correct.
Because if we don't, it's going to pass, obviously.
Yes,
right.
One step at a time. Before the horse here.
So do we want to go move forward with that vote first and then look at appointing?
That's
want
perfectly
to
fine.
split it up into 2 things?
Yes. The motion that was already made would be a good motion.
Okay, so your motion currently is
Move forward with, to move forward with the sales tax ballot measure on the November ballot.
I second that.
okay. So I have a motion from Councilmember Morowitz, second from Councilmember Nuno. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. So then the next step now is appointing a committee, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Any takers up here? Anybody really interested? I'm
I
interested.
can help. I'm not the best writer in the world, but we do have writers on staff that can help.
Quick question, City Attorney. Can language be modified that they approve, giving them the opportunity to appoint after or appoint themselves, or it has to be done tonight?
It doesn't have to be done this evening. The only thing I would note is that if we have some deadlines coming up where we have to get the language done by, so if the council's going to appoint, they would then have to come back at another meeting, next couple of days. That would be the only thing you could do. A special meeting within a week or so. I just didn't know because currently I know with our term and where we're at, there was no intention to come back until August 20th. But if council wants to come back and there's a quorum and in the next couple of days, you could come back later and do it that way.
We appointed 2-by-2 tonight.
Yep.
And if we need to appoint some citizens to it, obviously
We can
have
look
to
at it
schedule
then.
a special meeting. You don't have to have all 5 of us.
Yep.
And we can zoom in.
No, that's perfectly fine. I mean, assuming we meet the Brown Act rules on zooming in.
Who knows? There might be somebody in the audience that might want to.
Yeah, there might be some interest, right? So I feel like I would like to appoint the 2-by with me and Councilmember Halford at this point. I think from what I've seen on the dais.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Vice Mayor really wanted to be on. I know. Who was the second?
Me.
Okay. All right. I have a motion from Vice Mayor and a second from Councilmember Morway. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Can I oppose? No. All right. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, are we good with that item?
You're good.
Okay. You want a break? You want a break? Okay, Councilmember Moore would like a 10-minute break. Thank you.
Really?
All right, welcome back. Knowing that we had not moved on to C2 yet and C1 is still open, I actually would like to make a third motion on that item tonight and actually add to the 2-by that was created and also appoint a public members to that committee. And I would like to appoint Phyllis McDonald, Norm Hauser, and Corey Coleman, and make that a motion.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.